of regular people during the basic struggle and pain of life. Everyone has a testimony. We all have survived the darkness. Now let's talk about how we got to the light so we can help our brothers and sisters who still haven't overcome their demons. But guess what? We all have devils on different levels. So through conversations, we use the tools and insight to light the path for hope. Let's have a chat and stop running from our issues. If we live through it, then talking about it probably won't kill us. That's what we're doing. We're talking, we're crying, we're laughing, we're joking, but we're looking inward so we can grow outward is the theme of this show. The caterpillar transforming into the butterfly is the goal and purpose of this podcast. When you talk about you, I learn about me. Iron sharpens iron and steel sharpens steel so we can cut through the fog of despair into the hope of today. Listen, welcome to Conversations with Malik, and please don't forget to follow us at convoswithmalik.com, convoswithmalik.com. There you will find all our social media links. We're on Apple, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. Listen, check us on Conversations with Malik YouTube channel. We're just really putting our best foot forward with YouTube. So like us, subscribe us, share us, hit the little bell. Facebook, go to Conversations with Malik. And listen, starting it out, I want to thank everybody who helps out the show. I want to thank Kareem the Dream, Raheem that I call him, our audio engineer. He does a great job making sure that we sound authentic and we're podcasting and we have the quality music and the sound and everything is crisp and clear. I like to thank Wendell, the cameraman with the plan. He's not here today, but shout out to you, Wendell. One of my co-hosts, Jeff Joes. What's going on, Jeff? Listen, Justin Maz, social media manager who does an excellent job with our imagery and helps to make sure our website and everything is crisp and professional. Thank you guys. It takes a team to do everything that we do. And listen, you know, I'm here. I'm grateful. I just want to say I'm grateful to everybody who's been hitting me up, who see me in the streets, who talk to me. Oh, you had Conversations with Malik guy. So that means we're getting a little buzz is going. But more importantly, the people who have watched shows and said, thank you for having that person on. Because I've been where that person been. I went through some similar things, and they still was able to be successful and do the great things that they've done. So thank you. That really helped me and inspired me. So that's really what this is about, you know. And listen, we're gonna get right to it. I'm always honored to have a guest. All right, and I'm here with who they call that girl, Lesette Wilson. and listen. So I'm going to run it down, who she is and what she's about. She's an accomplished pianist, composer, producer, and arranger. Listen, she's been in the game and she's worked in the same arena as people as Phil Collins, Philip Bailey, Shaka Khan, Angie Stone, Tito Nieves, Najee, Melissa Morgan, Tom Brown, Jay-Z, P. Diddy, Roy Ayers, Emile LaRue, Albie Shaw, Loose Ends, Stanley Torrentine. I mean, you've been working, my sister.
Hey, gotta work. It's all about growth. It's all about doing what you do.
Wow. And so listen, you know, I was reading about you. I was looking up your information in your past and you know, listen, shout out to Hannah Glinsky.
Yes. Hey, Hannah.
Hannah G in the house. Listen, she hit me up. She said, I think that she would give you an excellent interview. So upon looking you up, I said, wow, she's really like brilliant and talented, especially when he was talking about how when you was a child, you just had an ear for music.
Yeah.
And you would pick up on things quick. Was your love for music, did it start early?
Yeah, you know what? In my family, everybody, you know, my parents were both teachers. I was raised in Queens.
Okay.
Queens in the house.
Okay.
And music was something that everyone sort of had to do. You know, when you grew up in my era, you either took piano or ballet lessons. Well, I took ballet lessons in the beginning, and once I did my first dance recital, my father was like, "You sure wasted my money." So it was.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it
was bad.
Bernice Johnson, I went to right up there on. Remember Bernice Johnson up there on Merrick? Oh yeah.
Okay.
Remember she was on the Avenue on Jamaica Avenue.
Wow,
Bernice
you went back.
Johnson. Yeah, I remember Bernice and Gloria Jackson. Remember she had a.
Yeah.
when you're in Queens, that's where you went.
Yes.
Everybody went through that. So, but music was always something there. My mother sort of played, and my parents played. So I always heard music. And for me, if I heard something, I could play it. Which was a blessing and a curse, because at the same time that they wanted me to sort of study and hear music because I heard it, I wanted to get outside. So that was a means to an end. The
Right.
quicker I could play whatever they needed me to play, the sooner I could get outside to play with my friends.
Gotcha.
So I didn't really put the two together as a talent at the time, but I would go to my teacher prior to that and say, could you play me next week's lesson? And as I played next week's, once she played it once, I'm like, bet, got it.
Gotcha.
So of course, where the other kids had to practice, I heard it, I already knew it. So my mother's like, play your lesson. I'm like, I need to get outside. And I was out the door. So that is in the beginning how that ear training and how, I guess, your ability. Now, of course, when I would do the music then or play it, sometimes I'd play it differently. My mother's like, that's not what's on the book. Of course, the book would be upstairs and I played something totally different. But I'm like, Ma, it sounds better this way. Yo, this is dope. Listen to this.
Gotcha.
So that's sort of how it develops. And that's how, basically, if you think about it, production and arranging and those sort of things develop. It's what you hear and what you do to enhance music, or what you do. So that sort of was innate before you can put a label on it. Nowadays, people put a label on it. The decision to, somebody says, I think I want to be a producer. It always amazes me, because I'm like, either you hear it or you don't. It's not like one day you do that. And if you do, you're already finding ways to kind of get that out. If it's in you, you're going to try to work it out.
Gotcha. And before we continue on, we're gonna go to a short break, because I'm gonna talk more about her producing skills. We'll be right back. Composer, producer. I'm just floored with and honored to have you here, right? And we were talking about producing and having the ear of a producer. What distinguishes someone with an ear and someone that doesn't have an ear for producing?
I think, I always go back to people's natural ability. To be able to enhance a piece of music, to be able to kind of understand all of the inner workings of what makes something happen. A producer, some people listen to music and they go, I like it, and they just like it. A producer sort of listens and says, I like it, but why do I like it? And what makes me like it? And those sort of things sort of resonate with them first. Nowadays, we're in the era where people throw something together and they feel like it's production. But when I grew up, production meant enhancing not just your own music, but anybody else's music. So
enhancing what you came across, what you found.
Enhancing, in the day, most producers had to work on songs that were not theirs. Sometimes it was someone else's. And you had to have the requisite skills, be it arranging, be it writing. And there are producers that don't play, that knew, if I was going to do something, I'm going to call this, this guitarist, or I'm going to call this person for the sound they were looking for. Right. The biggest job of a producer is, be it a show, be it music, it doesn't really change. You have to know how it's all going to end up. So even if the pieces are not defined yet, that mindset becomes, how does it end up? If you go and you produce a television show, people don't care about, the cast of characters. Your job is to know how they all fit. And gotcha. To have, I say the traits of a producer is to have that mindset to put those things together. You sort of already hear. That's why I tell people, you can't go to school for production. It can only facilitate what you already know here.
What's already there.
And then these tools can only facilitate what you already know or what you already hear. It's like, it's like, I've had someone recently come to me for piano lessons. And they say, I really want to learn. And, you could really teach me. And I said, I think I'm talented. And I'm like, well, son, if you're talented, you're already going to get at it. I don't think Albert Einstein had to say, you know what, let me get to a lab before I can discover anything.
Gotcha.
He was tinkering. There has to be an innate, I won't say there has to be, but for most, and for the ones better at their game, there is an innate sense of self or sense inside of you that works. I don't think anybody had to say, Stevie Wonder, here, you get to that piano.
Yeah, that I have that it, right? I'm like, what was your moment that you realized, I'm good at this?
I don't know if because I don't know. I don't know if I ever sit around and say that I'm good at it. I always tell people I know a lot of music, and for as much music as I know, I always tell people there's always more that I don't know that I know. The wonderment of creating music and what keeps you constantly going is you have to have the skills of someone who's experienced, but yet you still have to have the wonderment of a child. You still have to be able to look at a piece of music or anything, and that's what keeps you going with the same amazement. Like, wow! Sometimes there's
teachable.
There's not a day that I don't hear something, and I go, wow! I never thought of it. Be it the best piece of music in the world, or be it the easiest piece of music in the world, where you find the beauty in it. That's that innate thing where you go, why? Or how does this sound good? A producer, to me, well, in my opinion, and this may only apply to me, when I hear a piece of music, I just don't go what, I go why and how. And a lot of people just go, oh, I like that. But I'm like, I like that. Why do I like that? And what does it stir in me? And most pieces of music are not about what musically happens. It's about how you make a person feel.
So you hear it spiritually.
You have to. When I write a piece of music, or if I'm working on a piece of music, I don't think about, well, what is it supposed to sound like? My first thing is, what do I want my listener to feel? And then everything comes from that. I'm not one of these bang, bang, let me do a bass, bang, bang, let me do a drum beat. I'm always like, because most of the time, the inspiration comes when I'm doing something else. So a lot of times, the main thing of production and writing music is to communicate. We just want to communicate. Gotcha. We all just want whomever is listening to feel what we feel at that moment.
Gotcha. You want to communicate a thought and an idea.
A thought, a vibe, a persona, a feeling. Again, people don't necessarily remember songs for the music. They remember songs for how it makes them feel.
That is so true. That is because when certain songs come on, I'm like, oh,
that's my jam.
Yo, I remember we used to be in the park.
Yes, I always say that.
And that's timeless.
You never ask a person, you may say to that person, if you wanted to even say, well, what did the song consist of? What musically went on? They're like, I don't know, but that was my way, yo. And so that's all that matters.
So your experience as a woman and as a black woman in the music industry, was there, I know there's sexism everywhere.
Oh.
What was there, like, levels of women aren't capable of doing things that men producers are capable of?
Of course.
And as a black woman, did you have obstacles that you had to overcome?
There still are. I mean, it never ends, because remember, music is subjective. So what one person likes, another one doesn't. And when you are, and music, and the music industry is based on exploitation. So you figure this way, if music is subjective, I could say, I like this, I don't like this. And when you have no standard, and you're dealing with people that may not understand music as deeply as you do, or care about it that way, because remember, it is a business, then what is your criteria? This song's good, it's not, this person. So the criteria becomes, do I like you? Forget the music. Songs come a dime a dozen, as artists do. So then what am I really sticking to? Then I have to stick to my gut feeling of who I like. And then all of our socialization comes into play. What am I more comfortable with?
Right.
What am I, and I've gone through this because remember, I started off primarily as a pianist. So, as I went and I toured, you have to figure at the time when there weren't that many female musicians out there playing with the folks that I did, because my mentor and the person that taught me was a man in this business. So when I had decided to come into there, I'm dealing basically with men.
With men.
Yeah, sure. So
White men or
all,
black
all, one of my first tours was with Judas Priest, Def Leppard. And then I did I worked with Phil Collins. I did the Easy Lover album. So I got,
men? Wow.
Yes, it was different because you deal with criticisms from both sides.
At times, did you feel like, they want me to stay in my place
Well,
here, or I have to find my place? Or was you one of the ones that's like, no, you're gonna recognize me?
Well, you're
for what I'm
already
worth?
out by virtue of me being a pianist in a male band. I'm already out of place. You're already, that's not the norm. And also you had to be twice as good to be good. And again, I will give you I'll give you a scenario.
Okay.
A male plumber, and Dex, you know this story. A male plumber comes into your house and he says, I'm gonna fix your sink. But I forgot my wrench, I'll be back. You don't think twice about it. You're like, okay. The woman with the same skills comes to your house, assesses the problem, says, I'm gonna fix it, but I forgot my wrench. I gotta go back and get it. What's your thought? She doesn't know what she doing. Oh boy, here we go. I mean, I know you're gonna try to smooth it out, but your initial reaction.
But you kind of led me into.
That's most people's initial reaction.
Okay.
Is, oh boy, I don't know. I'm not sure, and has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that she's a woman.
You're right. I mean, just for the fact that maybe initially coming up, my idea of what a plumber looks like is.
But if she's a plumber and she has the same requisite skills,
but see, when you just said that, you know what? You're right, because my idea of what a plumber would look like would be a man. Somebody with, the tool belt around his waist. She some
may
construction
have
tools. She may have.
But once she tells you she forgot that wrench, you're starting to think.
Okay.
And so we women deal with that perception all of the time.
So you're saying your margin for error in the music industry was different?
Oh, of course, you have to be twice as. Here's another.
Did you ever have a situation where you got cut off because you made a mistake or something like that?
No, because I didn't make mistakes. I don't play. Okay. This is because this is how I eat. So remember something. Even financially, if you're in a band, let's just say you're a touring musician in the day, things have changed a lot.
Right.
You're in a band as a touring musician, and the band is primarily made up of men. Financially, if you're traveling, we can throw 2 men in a hotel room, but I'm going to have a woman now, I've got to get an extra hotel room. So now financially, you have to really be worth it for me to pay this sort of money, because I can easily just get another guy.
Wow.
Here's another thing. You have to remember, even with artists, guys are used to hearing commands for guys. Here's a great example.
Right.
We're always told to fall back. You can come into a guy's studio and the guy may say, look, in my studio, I don't have any smoking in here, and if you have to have a drink or something, you go outside and do your thing. And they go, I can respect that. I know guys. If a woman says, look, I'm in here, but I don't want you to smoke in it. Oh, why is she so difficult? Oh my goodness. Man, why is she blacking out on us? Purely perception.
Okay.
So,
did you have to watch out because sometimes as black people, but especially black women, did you have to be careful that when you maybe wanted to express yourself or you were upset about something, did you want to kind of stay away from the angry black woman kind of?
Well, you know what? Interestingly enough, not so much that, but remember, women by nature we are socialized to be there in that industry, or in an industry predominantly by men, only for a limited amount of time, because then we're supposed to go off and have babies and that's the end of it. That's why men are paid more, because they figure, well, you're going to be around longer. And also, we were also taught in the company of men that not so much that we were supposed to be lesser, but we append our behavior because we are always under the viewpoint that we are trying to get the attention of men. So it became rough for me, even as a pianist, because I've played in bands with people who had wives. And the wives would come and look at me like, who are you? And I'm like, look, I do not want your husband. He's in the band, so he's making as much as me. I'm probably making more than him, so he ain't got no money. You know what I'm saying? He ain't got enough for me for all that. We ain't flipping and tripping all like that.
Right.
Fall
Plus,
back.
I got to see him every day, please,
yes,
girl.
Fall back. So, the whole, we come into this the socialization of how we are, and I tell people sometimes, although, and remember, I'm always going to be the minority. And if you are exceptional or better than that, that's really irrelevant, because their thinking is, well, there's only one of you. There's plenty of us.
Do women stick together in the music industry?
No.
Do black women stick together in
No.
music?
Not really.
Why do I always get the sense? We were talking about this the other day in the living room, me and my kids. And, Cardi B and Nicki Minaj don't get along, right? And me and my wife were saying, well, Foxy and Kim didn't, right? And I remember there's a time where Russell was really trying to, I think he wanted them to do like a Thelma and Louise album or something. He was trying to get them to come together, and they just couldn't come together.
Remember something. We have been socialized into believing that women we only can be close to a certain time, and then we are to split apart, and that's the time when we start receiving the attention of men. And once we receive the attention of men, all of our ties end.
But let me ask you a question. Why does it seem like
black women all around
can't coexist? So we were talking, so we was like,
all women. Black women.
Why can't Nicki and Cardi B come together? And I said, I don't think it's just them. I think it's hard for one woman to be on the top of the rap game. It's hard for two of them to be. And when it's more than one, it's like I've seen this play out over and over again from generation to generation.
You don't hear about country women doing that,
right?
But again, we've been taught when we reach a certain.
But do the industry pit people up against each other like their camps?
Well, remember, the industry is there just to make money. Okay. It's about money.
Okay.
And remember, if I can keep one up above you, then I can collect from that revenue stream, because at some point in time we are each dealing in each other's revenue streams.
Okay.
The same sort of audience, the same type of consumer takes a part of both of that. And remember, just as women in general, we're taught to become, I don't want to say to become adversarial, but we do when it comes to a man.
Yeah, but why?
Think about it. You guys can sit around, and two guys can date the same women at different periods in time. You guys can go in the back room and joke about it. Ha ha ha. We women were taught, oh, that's my man. Oh no. And then all of a sudden they say,
and you knew I dated him, so why did you mess with him?
But you guys laugh about it. You guys laugh about it. You guys are like, yeah, she was something, yeah. We are taught that, and then all of a sudden, if you ever watch these shows, they say, well, wait, that was your best friend. What did she say? We weren't really that close. I'm like, you were before this? That's just the socialization. It just blends and falls off into every other aspect.
So it just...
Yeah, I don't even think... It's not even a musical thing as much as it is how we've been socialized.
Yes, that's true.
It's not a musical thing.
That's true.
Because this falls into every category of life. It's a social thing. Yeah, and unfortunately, we haven't... Because guess what? I never really hear about Taylor Swift fighting with Ariana Grande.
Exactly.
I never hear about Loretta Lynn fighting with whatever country singer. I don't hear about it.
Never.
I don't hear about it. And they're all making money. I don't hear about it. And even if they thought it and felt it, you don't hear about it.
Right. So let me ask you this. What was one of your toughest points in the music industry? One, and did you ever get to a point where you felt like kind of giving up and leaving it
Yes. When I came to the realization that the music industry was not about music, the music industry. You know, I had come up into this point where I felt that if you worked hard and if you practiced and you did your thing, that you would be rewarded, and you would get what was due to you. When I realized that it was more about politics, and the better you are at it, the more isolated you become, the more again, there's more mediocrity than there are,
Wow.
great people.
Wow.
And guess what? Mediocrity is easier to sell because I have more leeway because the talent is so nominal. So now it doesn't become about the talent. It just becomes how much I want to mess with you. Okay, if I mess with you, maybe I'll get a kickback because...
Wow, that's sinister.
Well, it's not sinister. It's the business of music. And when I realized that, the thing is, I'm a pianist, so I didn't have to necessarily deal with the industry because, I'm like, look, worst come to worst, I could play in church. I could play at Jim Spin's bar and grill.
You can take what you do.
Yeah, I don't have to deal with
Gotcha.
it. However, times have changed now, and with so many independents and so many people, because of that, we've kind of let other generations fall off, and now people complain that music is so terrible, but we've left them to their own devices, and now a lot of the older generation, my generation, they're not active participants, and they feel like they've been kicked out. But they've sort of let it fall. And you see, for example, country music will always be. There will always be people ushering in the younger guys. There will always be people here. Think about it. In hip hop, you got old school, and the young heads, the old heads don't know. It becomes a battle.
Yes.
I don't hear that with the new school of country music.
Right.
And again, that's part of our the crabs in a barrel. That's part of our socialization.
You're so right. Me and my friend was talking the other day, and we were talking about the new hip hop, and he said, and it's funny because he's a high school teacher, and it's amazing because we was talking about his journey and how he's a lawyer, but he left that to teach high school, and he said he feels like he's living for the first time in his life, right? Because he's enjoying himself with the high school children, and he said we was talking about the music of today, and he said, yeah, but it dawned on me that I'm not supposed to like it because they're not making it for me.
Right.
They're making it for them. That's what they like, and they're making it for them. And when he said that, I said, oh, shoot.
But here's the interesting thing. Only, and I don't want to sound crazy, but only we cut it off and say, well, that's for them, that's for this. You got guys that play in rock bands now that can tell you about Elvis or whatever.
Gotcha.
Part of it is our legacy.
And I like some of it though.
It's great. I think
I'm not one of those. I'm not one of those that's like, oh, this. I never wanted to be somebody from the generation before that thinks everything the generation after does
is terrible.
Isn't good.
And you have to remember something. A lot of our folks, and that is our own fault, because a lot of it, I always tell people, if you ain't part of the solution, you part of the problem. And remember, a lot of our generation went on to do what they had to do. We were fortunate enough to come up in an era where there were music in the schools. You played in a little band in school, or you took up something, and even if you didn't become that musician, you had a chance to play with an instrument.
Yes.
And that has so much to do with your mind. And music is math, and music is science. Now you have a generation, music has been out of the public school system, at least here in New York, for at least 10 years, for years and years.
Sad.
So
travesty.
Now you have to understand, these kids who have unless you could afford to go to music school, who have no sort of access to learning an instrument, have to make it up on their own. So you can't get mad when they don't know. They've had to make up their own sort of thing, and we've had nothing to do with it. I always tell people, when you think of the hottest musicians, and why I say this is because it has so much to do with our history. It's passed down. When you see a good artist and you're doing an interview and you say, well, gee, you have such a great knowledge. What does he say? My mother used to sing at night. Or my dad used to play these records at night. Or my father used to go to this bar. It's passed down. Part of it.
Or my uncle and them used to play in the basement. And they used to rehearse.
Well, you think about it now. Part of the sad thing is nowadays, this generation, their kids are like 18 years older than their parents, 18 years younger. They're listening to the same thing. Yes. But we haven't passed on the legacy and the love of what we do. I don't expect people, I love, a lot of the hip hop. My friends always tease me because they're like, how do you know all these kiddie songs? It's music. And there's always, for me, the main part of music is to communicate. And if you're a linguist and you speak languages, would you say, well, these kids are speaking another language, I don't want to talk anymore, I don't want to communicate, No, if you are somebody who always wants to create and communicate, you're going to find the ways to talk. I give another analogy. Albert Einstein was always curious about science. Do you think at one point in time he said, man, I'm no longer curious. You see the new microscopes they have? Forget it. I don't want to know anymore.
Yeah.
You're always going to want to create. And that's why I always say that thing inside you, the one thing that never changes in music is passion and desire. It's ageless. And the other thing, especially with my label and the people that I work with, because they're young people, and the music that we do, it's mostly hip hop, is everybody wants to be heard and understood. And the beauty is when you can communicate and we both get it.
So talk to me about TF Music Group.
Okay, TF Music was started by myself and my partner over there, Dexter Ferrari.
Okay.
And part of it was
D Ferrari in the house.
Yes, Dexter Ferrari, my partner there. Dex Flex. Dex Flex. What was so interesting is, it's a twofold sort of story. Number one is we mentioned guys like Tito Nieves, and I'll give you a little bit. He's the guy that sings, I like it like that. And you hear him sampled on the Cardi B record. We used to have a band together as kids. If you hear Shalene Thomas, that's a friend of mine, sang on albums of mine. So, I've always had an integral part of stuff. Yeah. Can't Knock the Hustle, I was one of the writers for Jay-Z. So, for me, it's always about creating music. A lot of these people, especially youngsters, don't really understand, one thing to make music and to put it, on the internet or whatever, which is great. Well, when you start talking about getting an income from it or getting some sort of dollars, there is a criteria. Okay. And a lot of folks just don't understand those things because they've never been in those positions.
Gotcha.
Part of what it is for our company was to not only embrace folks from the neighborhood, but also embrace folks who might not understand that criteria.
Okay.
People, a lot of times make music, and I know they look on YouTube and say, well, that guy, looks like yesterday. Most of those people have put in years and years, and a lot of times, sometimes you don't know because somebody hasn't told you.
That's true. What exactly, specifically, are you guys looking for at your label?
Well, number one, the most important thing we're looking for is that hunger, is that desire to express themselves. The criteria, and again, it's inner. It's my job now as a producer. It's sort of like it's like a coach. I take your abilities and I work on your assets. I work with your limitations. And we work on those things, and then I want to put you in a position to win and to be heard. We all want to be heard. Right. I think nowadays record companies have gone past the artist development and showing. They just want records. In fact, they're not even developing folks anymore. They're like, well, if you got a hot record, you do it first, and then we'll kind of come in and that business. And that's how record companies could justify ripping you off. Because they said, well, we did this for you, and we made you this, and you know, like the Temptations in the day. Nowadays, they're not. They're like, you know what? We're not even going to call you until you have a record out that's already doing some numbers. And then we'll just come in and offer, you know, some financing, and maybe we'll do a few things, and we'll find ways to justify ripping you off. But I'm like, at that point, you know, the wonderful thing is with independence now, you do most of the work. So now your deals with record companies are like, I did all the work, so you may want to kick in some money. And the one thing about this younger generation, because a lot of them don't know, they weren't taught how to be afraid, and that's a wonderful thing. My generation, you know, you'd go, oh, that's Mr. So-and-so, oh, you better not speak to him. He's the head chief. Kids are like,
there's no boundaries with them.
No.
Let me ask you something. What was your most special highlight being in the music business? Give me your.
I don't think it's come yet. You never.
Really?
I don't think.
Give me one. Come on, give me one of your favorite moments.
I don't. You know what?
Come on, you had to have a moment where you were somewhere, somebody was performing, or y'all was in the studio and just finished the record. Give me one of them.
I don't know if I have one. You know why?
Really?
You know why? Because I never looked at. I didn't come into the music industry to quote unquote be a star. I came in because I loved making music. And I
so give me
playing.
an enjoy. Give me a.
It's all enjoyable. I don't. It's.
Give me one moment where you just had a ball and you was like, this is what it makes it all worth it.
Now here's the very interesting answer. Everything makes it worth it.
Really?
When I'm in the studio with an artist and he gets it, that's what it's worth it.
Okay.
When I was on a stage, and I've been fortunate to play all of the stages, Radio City, that was worth it. But it's about a continuum. I don't think it's about me picking moments. Do I have a particular moment? No. You know what? The only thing I can say is there's never been a time where I've gone to work on a piece of music or do something with an artist where I have not totally enjoyed it.
Really?
Never.
Wow.
I've never. I tell
That's
people.
A blessing.
I don't. Is there any one particular moment? No. I think it's about the work. Okay. So everything is a continuum. Everything is emotion.
It's connected to.
Right. I don't ever look back, and my partner will tell you. Even when records come out, I don't sit around and listen to them. I'm on to the next thing. Gotcha. There's always something that I'll hear the next day and go, you know. Sometimes my partner has to remind me, hey, you remember this? And I'm like, oh yeah, sort of. But I'm on to the next thing. I'm like, my artists get on me because they're like, they call me mom. They're like, Ma, we just did this last week. I'm like, nah, but here's something better. We're on to the next thing.
You're on to the next
so it's
thing.
Always a continuum.
Constant creativity.
I don't, if you stop to look back, then you obviously feel you're at the end of your rope.
Okay.
So I don't look back. I've never had a desire to look back. I'm always on to the next thing. And that's what, a lot of my guys or a lot of my era, they sit back and they're still, remember the day when... Being a woman, number one, you never had one set click because I'm sort of an anomaly. I'm sort of by myself. So It wasn't like there was one situation that I could attach myself to for the rest of my life.
Gotcha.
If I was a singer, it would be a lot different.
Gotcha.
But I was fortunate. I played salsa. I played rock and roll. I did a tour with Judas Priest. I played with Phil Collins. I did salsa. Stanley Turn Team was jazz. I played with Roy Ayers. I got to play with Amel LaRue from Loose Ends Groove Theory. It constantly was about work, and that's why the production is so much fun because with every I played merengue for 2 years in South America. I've done a lot of with each thing you collect a nuance. And the beauty of doing those nuances now is because when you produce, now you get to inflect all of those. When you work with one person, that's why I say it's a continuum. When you work with one person, let's say you play with a rock band and you play something And they're like, no, I want it like that. Okay, you learn. Okay, in a rock like that. Then maybe the next week I'm playing with a reggae band. Same chords, different rhythm. So you realize, oh, so now it can be turned into that. When you play club music or house music, it can. So all of you're constantly collecting information, and that's why I say the curiosity. The beauty of production now is because you get to draw upon those things. And the thing that I enjoy mainly doing, believe it or not, is film scoring. Which, writing for television and film, because it's a different animal. That's really part of our company, is developing young artists, but also developing them as writers, as producers, because as I look at these young people, they are going to be the entrepreneurs of the future. Gotcha. And you want to pass that on. The one, if anything, if they develop anything from me, it's their love of wanting to learn. It's their love of music. Money comes and goes. I never asked to do this to be rich. No one, and when I was coming up, no one ever told me, do this and you'll get rich. Or do this, and I never thought it was. Well, it was also about making a living, but no one had to make a crazy living.
Gotcha.
You worked and you grew and you got things. I didn't even think about the money. I think it was my partner. One day I was doing some music. I used to just do music off the top of my head, and he ran it by Kanye and them called, and he ran it by them, and I asked him. I said to my partner, I said, "Oh, that's really cool." I said, this was in the early days of Kanye when he was over at Rock. And I said, "Oh, that's cool. What does Kanye make to produce a song?" Because I know he doesn't play. He's more of a creative, and more so. He's not a musician. He's a creative. And my partner says to me, 75. And I thought to myself, I was like, oh, 7,500. That's good because he doesn't really play anything. And Dexter looks at me and he's like, "Are you stupid? Not 7,500." 75,000. And I said, 75,000? And I hung up the phone with him. I called him back. I said, like 75, like 75? He's like, yeah, what did you think? I called him back again. I said, well, he doesn't play. I called him back again. I said, 70. I said, that nigga don't play nothing. For real? But I never put a price on it.
The game has changed. Let me ask you this.
Has it changed? It hasn't changed. I just wasn't aware of it. I'm a dummy.
What things do y'all have that's going on now that we can look out for?
Right now, we have 3 artists that we are currently developing and working with. In fact, they just dropped a record, and we're working on. They're 3 separate guys, but they also do some things together. Okay. Their names are Snow Wills, which we've been working, Christopher, Keys, and Ian Y. Nitty, and they are New York-based rappers. One is in Brooklyn, 2 in Brooklyn, and one is in the Bronx. Okay. And they are really coming up, but we are training them, as we call them, artists in training. People, they're quick to call themselves an artist or an entertainer. And I want to say, what do you do that's so entertaining? I'm an entertainer. Like, okay, what do you do? No, you're an artist and trainer. I always tell people that's like if I bought a saxophone and I said, "Ooh, I'm a saxophone player." No, you're a saxophone owner, and one day you hope to be a saxophone player. If I buy a piano tomorrow, am I a piano player? No, I'm a piano owner. I'd like to be. So a lot of it, and it's understanding the criteria. Now things are, different, and you have a lot of people that. Or what you think are a lot of people just turning around, like, oh yeah, I rap and I was just rapping 2 years and here I am. Right. But that is really the minority of it. Most of these people have been around for a long time. I mean, you even look at people like Kodak Black and you think, oh, he just popped out. Yeah. I've seen videos of him at 8 years old singing, and in fact, he wasn't even rapping. He was singing.
It's funny how when you check out people's stories, people think people just arrive places.
Never.
And they've been grinding for years. There's few exceptions, Tekashi 6ix9ine. He kind of just made himself a character and blew up out of nowhere. There's few exceptions.
And Tekashi will tell you, I know someone worked with him, and knows and said, I'm an actor. I'm not really a rapper. I didn't come out here.
There's
I'm an
few
actor.
exceptions here and there,
Oh,
but
very few.
for the most part, tell everybody how they can find you guys and find you and what it is that y'all doing before we wrap it up.
People can reach us through, and I'm going to let my partner say,
You can reach us at, on Instagram.
on Instagram.
At music.tf.
Music.tf,
Right.
Instagram.
Also, you can hit us on Gmail if you like. You can hit us at tfmusic131 at gmail.com.
131@gmail.com.
And we're always just looking for folks, as we always say, we're not looking for 1 million folks. We're looking for a few folks that want to
If
do
you're
millions.
out there, if you're out there and you're hungry and you want to get with some good people, hit them up. But you got to be serious because they're not playing. They'll work with you. They'll help you develop. But reach out to them because these are excellent people here. I want 2 things before we close.
Certainly.
One, give me 1 word to describe Lesette Wilson. 1 word.
1 word.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an interesting one. Fulfilled.
Give me 1 word to describe your experience in the music industry.
That's a good one. 1 word to describe.
In music, not just in music.
Ever growing.
Okay. If you could leave the world and humanity, if you could leave everybody with something, give me a sentence of which you would want to leave people with when you're no longer here.
I would want people to know how much I love what I do, and I love seeing it reflected in the people that we touch as we're doing it.
Wow. It's been another great episode, Conversations with Malik. I'm here with Lesette Wilson. Powerful story, great sister, done some wonderful things, fulfilled.
I only asked to be fulfilled. I never asked to be rich. I just asked to make every day be fulfilled. And it has been.
And listen, we'll leave you with that. Remember, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. Peace.
Peace.